Freedom is the right to tell what they do not want to hear. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. Tired of the same repetitive government narratives? Then wave goodbye to the distractions and rhetoric of corporate media. For this is Anti-Media Radio.
But I want to get the language right. The big government is in trouble.
You're all a bunch of slaves! Bunch of slaves!
What we need in the United States is not violence and lawlessness, but is love and wisdom and compassion toward one another.
What's your definition of media?
And now, here's your host, S.M. Gibson.
Seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. My name is S.M. Gibson, and this is Anti-Media Radio. It is April the 19th, 2016. We're looking at big elections in New York. We have Trump and Hillary both winning, I guess you would say, their home states. That's one of Hillary's many home states. So no real shock here. Ted Cruz comes in dead last. But we'll get into all that later on in the show. I'm going to go ahead and bring on our wonderful co-host, Mr. Kevin Knight. Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, man, not too much. Good to be back with you fellows again.
Yes, sir. And our sound director himself, producer, Mr. Shannon Madden. Shannon, what's going on?
Oh, well, let's try that one right there. Good evening, Mr. Gibson. I'm sorry I'm over here fiddling with the sound as we speak, trying to get rid of an annoying little hum. I think we need an electrician in here. Anybody know a good electrician? I think I've got a couple in my family.
But so, Kevin, what are your thoughts coming back on the election tonight and what we're seeing out in New York?
Well, as I don't know if most of everybody else has already heard yet, but apparently Trump's won. Hillary's claimed it. I mean, what else should we expect? Really expected Hillary to win. Didn't expect Bernie to do more than what...
I expected Bernie to do better.
Did you really?
I did.
I wouldn't have been surprised if he did better, but I expected either way for Hillary to pull it out. And
well, but then again, we don't really know if the numbers that we're seeing are the actual numbers of votes that were cast. You know, we know how that works.
Good point.
Hillary likes to play a little rough and loose,
especially
in a place where she has a lot of connections like New York, and I'm sure that she's still got some local peeps there.
Well, there's
pulling favors, making things happen, making sure that hanging chads and ballots that don't quite make it through the slot.
Well, there's a story right now up. It's the top story on antimedia.org about problems with the primary election. It's 126,000 voters were purged from the rolls. It was announced on Tuesday. So their election's going to face an audit basically after 126 people were not allowed to vote. And guess when everybody found this out? Today.
Oh, man, that's tough. Yeah, well, okay, life goes on. Let's keep moving. Business as usual.
Oh, yeah. Are you shocked?
No, not at all. Did you hear any shock in my voice right there? Nope. No.
But here's the problem is I think that, we're seeing a little bit of people standing up, and we're seeing people support a Bernie Sanders for whatever that's worth, and Donald Trump for whatever that's worth, in their own way. People, it's them, stretching out against the system. But I think especially with Bernie people. Maybe I'm wrong. I think you're going to have a lot of people go back to bed. You're going to have a lot of people go back to sleep. Well, my candidate lost. Maybe next time, guys. And people are going to go, fall asleep. And that's the exact opposite of what we need to do. We need people seeing what's happened, and we need movements to build. See, we have these elections and we have these politicians that people gather around. But we don't need a politician to gather around. We need to let this momentum continue past all this election business.
Well, I'm of the opinion we don't need a politician at
That's
all
it.
because politicians have gotten us in the mess that we're
That's
in
it.
now.
That's it.
We need
You
to take
said
it
it.
back down to a local level and get rid of the Fed once and for all. It's ridiculous.
I think you're absolutely right about that. As far as people going back to sleep, we've seen the anti-war left has been pretty much non-existent for the last almost decade.
As soon as Bush walked out of the office, you haven't heard another word. Out of the majority. You get a few people. But out of the majority of the left, you get nothing.
No, of course not. Let me ask you this: do you think? Here's what I'm more
8
curious to
countries
see.
bombed.
If Hillary actually takes the cake, takes the whole thing, which way do you think Bernie's going to go? Because Hillary's going to ask, and Bernie's going to be expected to go and send his people back behind Hillary. Do you think Bernie will actually come out and urge his supporters to go with Clinton? Do you think he'll even give any kind of?
Yes, he will.
Think so?
Yep.
And what will that do to Bernie's followers? Do you think that'll
Nope. They won't.
Don't think they'll care, huh?
Nah,
Maybe
they're
they
gonna stay
will.
at the house.
I mean, if they're shocked, they're more delusional than I thought.
Right, well, good point.
Well,
If
they're
they
certainly
are-
not going to go vote for Trump.
Oh yeah. I
think
disagree with
that's-
that. I think they are.
I think enough of them will
Bernie
probably
people.
be mad enough
Really?
as a
Yes.
protest vote, if nothing more.
This is the deal. Because they're running directly against Hillary Clinton, you see it with hardcore Obama people too. Once you get close and really examine Hillary Clinton for what she is, that's it. You hate that woman, and you will not be voting for her.
And it really is. That's it's a testament to how galvanizing of a character she is.
Hardcore
even
Obama
within her own
people
party.
hate her.
Yeah.
Hardcore Bernie people hate her.
I've got a friend actually. He called in the show last week. Justin, he's a real hardcore Bernie guy, but really a devoted. I mean, he really believes in. He's a hardcore liberal through and through. But he just posted something earlier about Hillary supporters, and it's not the first. And I was a little surprised, but it seems to be. We're seeing it more and more. People are not putting up with this stuff that she's doing, throwing shade towards Bernie and to the rest of the Democratic voters.
Throwing shade, yeah,
Throwing
that's about as mild as you can put it with that one, man.
One way to put it.
She is. I mean, really, she's like that one. The guest that comes over to your house and you have a bunch of candy in your candy dish.
Oh my!
And they
God.
just kind of take a sideways glance and then take the whole entire pile of candy and put it in their pocket. And then they notice that you see them do it, and they just kind of nod and walk away.
Like what?
They don't even offer to put the candy back, or hey man, I'm really hungry, or hey man, I got a bad candy habit. No, just kind of a nod. It's like
It should be expected.
yeah, you know what I did, and there's nothing you're going to do to me about it,
Right.
and just turn around and walk out. That's Hillary Clinton in a nutshell. She'll at least try to feign some sort of nervous smile, but yeah, she's flipping out the back door with a pocket full of mints. I don't know if anybody remembers when the Clintons left the White House and the big fracas that ensued with the condition that they left the White House,
Which they were ordered to return.
the
here
grandest
recently.
house in America. I mean, that's the house in America. Wouldn't you think you'd at least vacuum up a little bit or do some dusting? No, man, they left that place in shambles, stole the towels. I'm talking about got country with it. You can take the boy out of Arkansas. I'll just leave it at that. Roll Tide.
Yeah, so they say they emptied it. They say they took all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, the forks and anything that wasn't nailed down that they had access to, was gone and pretty much left the place in massive disarray. They had to do some straightening up for old G-Dub got there.
And I started to defend them by saying, well, listen, it was not just not just Bill and Hillary themselves, but no, it was the people that they surround themselves with that thought just as like-minded as she did who were actually to blame.
Yeah.
All of them. All rats on a sinking ship, and it was time to go.
Yep. The most prolific welfare whore in modern American political history.
Well, can't you just wait until Hillary reclaims the mantle?
Well, she seems to be doing pretty good in New York at the moment. We'll see how that all turns out.
She is, but
it really matters at the end of the day.
And we've not heard very, very little out of those supposed FBI investigation that we had. None of us, I think,
been really quiet on that front. Yeah,
it has.
Very quiet.
Not even in the right wing media sphere that we usually hear and rely on to throw little bones here and there about we're going to be seeing any day now, or investigators have this many investigators. Nothing in the past little bit. So who knows? It's and then she turns around and wins New York. I've not seen her. To me, her name's been out of the news as not near as much as she's been in it.
Well, there was the hot sauce fiasco. I'm sure
everybody
and the beer
caught
sauce.
That.
Caught that yesterday, man. You want to talk about some funny? Yeah, she apparently went on a radio show in New York and made a statement about hot sauce and pandering to the black vote, or one of the hosts said something about pandering to the black vote, and she said, yeah, am I winning? And then that nervous little laughter, like, yeah, I just stole some mints out of your jar. Yeah. That she's famous for. Yeah, that happened. And as you can imagine, very conscious people of color took great offense to it. I actually caught something on Facebook where somebody had commented that she probably has a packet of soy sauce in her pocket, just in case, an Asian news crew comes up and asks her about the Asian American vote. Yeah. Oh, I love Asian
Is it
people.
working?
I have soy sauce in my purse right now. Yeah.
Oh, I bet she's got everything covered.
She tried to sew up the Hispanic vote, too, sriracha. That's more of an Asian thing, though, isn't it?
It's more of an everybody thing.
Sriracha's pretty good.
Oh.
You don't do the hot sauce? Come on, man. We're in the South. Everybody's got to have their
I tell you what, I want to go ahead and
sauce.
bring up this. We're going to talk in the second hour of the show tonight. Today is the anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombings and Waco,
Texas.
So we're going to be getting into that in the second hour, but I just kind of wanted to go ahead and throw that out there. Oklahoma City especially is that's a funny one.
Yeah, there was a lot of not so funny things that happened during that.
That's the truth. But right now, I guess the big thing, it's the real thing, it's the distraction, it's kind of a mix of everything is this election, and these elections, whatever. Did y'all see this this video that was on MSNBC?
Yeah, you had mentioned this, and I checked out part of it, but I didn't get a chance to listen to all of it. And man, this guy just goes off. What's his name again?
Let's see. I'm gonna pull it up.
It's on some little round table, nondescript little sometime in the middle of the day.
It's on the Dylan Radigan show on MSNBC, but I've got it on the Facebook page. I'm gonna pull up Facebook. I hate getting on Facebook. Such a necessary evil. Mark Zuckerberg.
And you don't have to do anything to get banned these days either. I mean, everybody I know left and right is getting banned. Everybody. I mean, everybody. For nothing. Somebody else will post something on their page and they get banned for it. I mean, they've just gone nuts with it.
All the cool kids are doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway.
Need to get back on my MySpace account.
I understand that, but don't you to walk out.
This is Dylan Radigan on MSNBC of all places, which I'm not promoting, but just let's listen to this and then we'll go from there.
You owe $70 trillion.
I understand that, but
don't
you
you to walk out a $4 trillion solution, which is basically just a way for the Democrats to avoid dealing with this until 2017. I'm not here to talk about plans to deal with this till 2017. I'm saying we've got a real problem, and I'm tired of Republicans and Democrats who either want Republicans who want to burn the place to the ground, and Democrats, with all due respect, who want to offer a plan that gets it through their end of their second term of their presidency, and then screws me and my kids when it's over. And until we do that, we have to deal with the extraction that is at foot. It is the reason the financial markets are behaving the way they're behaving. That is a mathematical fact. This is not some opinion. This is a mathematical fact. Tens of trillions of dollars are being extracted from the United States of America. Democrats aren't doing it. Republicans are not doing it. An entire integrated system, financial system, trading system, taxing system that was created by both parties over a period of 2 decades is at work on our entire country right now. And we're sitting here arguing about whether we should do the $4 trillion plan that kicks the can down the road for the president for 2017 or burn the place to the ground, both of which are reckless, irresponsible, and stupid. And the fact of the matter is, until we actually, and I'm sorry to lose my temper, but I tell you what, I've been coming on TV for 3 years doing this. And the fact of the matter is that there's a refusal on both the Democratic and the Republican side of the aisle to acknowledge the mathematical problem, which is that the United States of America is being extracted. It's being extracted through banking, it's being extracted through trade, and it's being extracted through taxation. And there's not a single politician that has stepped forward, Susan, to deal with
but
this.
there's only one.
So yeah, the Dylan Ratican, that was true words. It's rare for somebody to get on MSNBC and talk about, guess what? Both parties are exactly the same. This is the banking system. It's rigged. We're not in control anymore. And it's time that we all start acknowledging this. This is something I think that it started out real low, and it was just people just screaming, just a few people, look, this is rigged. This is rigged. And now we have some guy on MSNBC of all places being like, look, we got to get over this whole idea of parties and all this business.
Well, I bet they couldn't wait to cut the commercial for that one. Yeah, get this guy out of here now. He's bad for business.
Yeah, and I'll go on and I'll play the second part here in a little bit. But people are waking up at least to acknowledge, regardless of your politics, and if you work for this place or that place and you're sold out to this person, everybody's waking up and acknowledging what's around them. And maybe these people, all that have worked on the inside, have believed all this garbage for years. And it's not like, they've believed everything they've done has been, and now they're like, oh no, what's going on here? I think that's one reason there's so many people in the military that are awake, though. It's because they're seeing it firsthand. But everybody else is seeing the back end of it. But it's exploding all around us now.
All around us.
And I think Bernie Sanders and I think Donald Trump both serve the purpose of exposing that. And, okay, I had the thought earlier today. Tell me what you think about this, Kevin. I'm not one for, I know there's a lot of people out there that are being complete anarchist. I personally, whatever. We can have the system that we have as long as we don't have the people in there. I'm not really the system we have, because that's a joke. But
where our politicians are bought and paid for by corporate America.
No, yeah, we don't want that.
That's not working at all.
I think what I'm trying to say is the way it's supposed to be set up, the way it's supposed to work, like you're taught in the second grade level. I think that'd be fine, as long as, it's the people.
When you're essentially a civil servant, though,
everybody's bought and paid for. They all have to go.
Making a decent living, making enough to live in a decent neighborhood, and have steak at least twice a week. Political funding. Then you have somebody comes along. And it's like you have a lot of power. You have a whole lot of power. Why don't you cash in on some of it? Just a couple million, this, that, and the other. Just sign this right here. All you have to do is sign this little piece of paper and go talk to these people and tell them exactly what we tell you. And it's cool.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I'll meet you in a hotel room somewhere and get you a briefcase full of money, and you can put it in, in some offshore account, or you can go take it to that, Rothschild Bank over in the Nevada. Could hang out the brother for a day or two. Drop the money off. Funnel it here, funnel it there. Go back to get it a little bit later. Everything will be cool. Once you retire, we'll get you a good consulting gig.
See,
that's absolutely wonderful. Who would say no to that? And that's why the system doesn't work.
Bernie would, of course, wouldn't he?
Oh no.
You know, I love to hear.
Bernie's incorruptible.
I hate to break people's
Haven't you
heart.
heard?
Oh yeah, I have. Trust me, I have, and I hate to break people's heart when I have to remind them when he talks about, or I say he. I'm sorry, I was thinking of one particular person. But I've heard this many a times that Bernie's he puts it to the big banks, or he wants to do the great thing for the little man. I'll believe that when somebody can explain to me why Bernie Sanders screwed Ron Paul out and and did not vote in favor of auditing the Federal Reserve in the last go, not this previous go around, but there was a big vote that a lot of people had worked really hard for Ron Paul and a number of other, even Dennis Kucinich spoke a lot to a lot of the Democrats and liberals about the Federal Reserve, the need to end it, and a host of other people. And yet, when it came down to it, to the vote, Mr. Bernie, the man for the people, voted against it. It goes to show you that your heroes are very rarely your heroes. Are they really heroes? Are they worthy of the title?
I think Bernie Sanders is a liar. I think Bernie Sanders is a different kind of liar. I don't think he's as selfish as maybe say the other politicians. I think he has his ideas, and I think he would lie.
Is he an ends justify the means guy?
Right.
That's what I think. His deal is?
That's what I think. But it's not for himself. It's for his cause, and
Well,
that's where he's different.
As far as a lying candidate, though, he's completely out of his league going up against Miss Hillary Clinton.
Oh, of course.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
I think the intent's probably different.
Very different. I think
what
the
you're
intent's
saying, the
very
intent's
different. Very different. I don't think he's near as ruthless.
Oh no, I think most people would agree with that. I mean, I
don't think he is ruthless probably at all. He's maybe a little bit to get where he's gotten, but yeah.
Well, do you think that any of the other candidates standing right now are going to release their transcripts of their corporate funded speeches anytime soon? Because if they do, then Hillary's camp has already pledged that. Oh well, if they show theirs, we'll.
Here's the funny thing about that, though. What's Donald Trump supposed to do? He is the corporation.
Yeah, he paid for.
Oh well, of course we know who his
speeches.
out is. He's got an out right now. We won't see it for a while if we ever do.
But I don't think we'll ever see Hillary's business.
No, ain't nobody gonna see. Ain't nobody gonna get up my business. Not getting on my computer, seeing Mama's emails. Those are private.
None of your business.
Ain't none of your business. You dibbing and dabbing. Don't even know what's happening.
Well, I tell you what. We'll see what happens. We're still a bit closer. We're farther out from June. It may be quiet until we get to June, but I think once we get there, we're going to start seeing a different outcome. And unfortunately, I think we're going to really see. Do you really think? I don't believe we're going to see much change at the end of this.
No.
I think we're going to get a really great show.
We are getting a really great show.
But I think maybe at the end it's going to just be
Have
exactly
you seen what Daddy's been doing lately? Actually, Daddy's been kind of quiet. Come to think of it, all the candidates have been rather quiet, I guess. The ones that are left standing, I guess, are very well practiced in, the script of the final days, or at least the final days of the primaries. We already have kind of a good idea how that's going to shape up now. Now that we have the delegate totals, or projected delegate totals that we have. Everybody's still saying that the RNC is going to be a wrestling match. Y'all are going to go up there and find out. That's awesome. I appreciate.
Yeah, man, I do. I want to go now.
Are you not going?
Man, are you crazy?
That's beside the point completely. Are you not going?
Are you crazy?
Come on, man.
Are you crazy? Generally, kind of applies to the fact.
I'm going to
telling
go
you,
ahead and bring on somebody that knows what they're talking about. Miss Claire Burnish,
who lives
writer,
in Cleveland.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
and journalist
Hi,
for
everyone.
Anti-Media. Miss Claire Burnish.
Tell him,
Hi,
Claire,
everyone.
this is like 1968. This is like our generation's, or this generation's, This time period's 1968 DNC.
Yes, yes, it is.
Very,
Yes, it is. And I'd like to point out that actually, and because I was traveling today, and to avoid listening to, really, really conservative, scary stuff on the radio, since I don't really have anything to play music with, part of the time I listened to NPR, and this morning they were predicting actually that Hillary was going to lose, like by a landslide. So this is really interesting.
So y'all are crashing at Claire's house, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's do it. It's going to be great. It's going to be history. Historic. My
that's
generation.
quite possible.
And then following, so that's pretty much y'all are going to leave me to do the show all by myself after that, after y'all get die in the fire that is going to be the y'all better go strapped. I know Kevin's going to be carrying. So, Kevin, you need to help him out. Take him the range before then.
Alabama, baby.
Yeah.
I just really think it's interesting that they were really harping. They interviewed, I can't remember who they interviewed, but they were really harping on that. They were actually saying that the Democratic Party was worried about what would happen when Hillary lost today. I mean, it was that strong of a prediction.
God.
So this today is really stunning.
So it's completely.
I mean, not really. It's stunning, but it's not surprising.
I think that's kind of the point that we were making. I was surprised to see that she had won, but at the same time, I mean, like Shannon brought up, do we know anything about the real votes? And then should it be that surprising? Yeah, I totally agree. It's probably more of the same, unfortunately.
Well, that's her home turf, so she's got a lot of roots there to make sure a lot of things go in her.
Cash rules everything around me. Cream is the money, dollar bill. Y'all Wu-Tang's from New York. Yeah.
That's why they were saying that they were so concerned. They were like, what are we going to do when she loses her home state or her claimed home state or whatever? I mean,
she's got power. She's got enough power to make sure that don't happen.
Well, obviously, of course she does. I mean, look at what's happening right now. Look at the chaos and stuff. And you have even the director of the Board of Elections like, so what? No, this is normal. Just totally ignoring everything that's going on or, whatever. But
yes, it's definitely normal. We report on it on this site daily. Rigged elections and hanging chads and people waiting in lines and for hours and hours and hours to find out their polls closed.
126,000 people dumped from the rolls altogether.
I mean, that's again, this is. I mean, it's ridiculous that anybody would ever think that the election is a honest and fair way to bring about any kind of change to what's going on right now. It's just not going to happen. And if if the bought and paid for selection isn't going to be the popular vote, i.e. Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump has surprised everyone, including myself. I had no idea that he would get as far as he's gotten with the momentum that he has behind him now to seriously actually be a serious contender for president of the United States. I'm still floored by that.
I think
I'm actually not. I think that the establishment is, everybody's tired of establishment people. They're tired of this kind of quote unquote duopoly that's really a monopoly on our political system.
I'm still not convinced that he's not a play. Like, he's not in on this.
I don't think that he thought he was going to win.
I'm not convinced that's not the case. I still mostly believe he's a rogue guy, kind of.
Yeah, but once he gets in the door, he's going to do exactly as he's told, just like everybody else.
And that's why I kind of feel like, I kind of just feel
you
like
get
this
to
is,
keep your balls and all that money.
Even though they're freaking out.
Yeah,
but he might be that way. But think of who his followers are. They don't buy that. They think that he really is this kind of like anti-establishment, their savior or whatever. So they are voting for him based on the fact that the establishment
he's riling that up.
Yes.
to get elected.
Well, yes, and I mean I see your point, and I agree to an extent. I'm not really necessarily convinced that he's not that, but at the same time, perhaps maybe he started off that way and then became wildly popular and became his own, rogue force, and so now that's why they're trying to bring him down so hard.
I think that makes complete sense.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I mean, I think there is something that he has enough information that they don't want him behind the wheel. He's got something on probably everybody.
At the same time, he's a little reminiscent of Ronald Reagan and others, of course, that have played to a conservative audience or a conservative base, but have enacted policies that were, liberal policies. Gun control, for instance, was only one of Reagan's big things that he pushed. But yet, if you look and talk to a lot of conservatives, Reagan was Mr. Conservative. But looking back at some of his policies, he was hated by a lot of liberals, but he was not exactly the hero of the right if you looked at his actual policies, as he's remembered by. But it's obviously not the game. But I think Claire's completely right. We've seen a lifelong Democrat, but yet he's played up to the right, and who knows what we'll see in office. I mean, I don't think he actually thought he would get this far.
No, I don't believe that.
And now that he's got to do something with it.
I do not believe that. Everyone around him may not believe he would get this far. I 100% he believes he would have. I do believe that. I think he thinks this is going according to the way I figured it would go. I think that.
And that right there is what makes Donald Trump a very, very scary choice for president of the United States.
That's it.
Exactly.
That mentality,
Everybody else may be going, how is this happening? This is really going down. Huh. I would believe he's like, just waking up in the morning.
Well,
I decided to run.
I don't think he doubts
this is what
himself.
was going to happen.
I don't think he doubts himself.
No, I think he expected.
Oh no, he does not doubt himself at all. I've never seen a man more ego-driven in American politics in my lifetime. I mean, and I lived through John McCain and George W. Bush. Remember George W. Bush back in '99 stumping? Oh man,
has an ego like this guy.
Oh man,
Cheney. Think about, you remember hearing everybody talk about when Obama. Oh, he's got this ego. He's got, how people were, and then. Look at the Cheney. Jeez Louise. Cheney.
Wow. Yeah, you want to talk about it. Especially in recent interviews that they've dug him up for.
But anyway, these huge egos, right? This guy, they're nothing. They're nothing. They look like nothing compared to him. Like his ego's that big. It isn't about him. It is about what he wants.
I agree with you. I mean, but I think that we've kind of discussed this before. I mean, if his ego is guiding him, all of these followers and people, kind of chomping at his heels and stuff, I mean, this is what makes him incredibly dangerous and likely to do just about anything. It's not that he would come up with the ideas on his own, but if he throws something out there for the hell of it, and his followers pick up on it, and they like it, and they, cheer him for it, then he's going to really enjoy that, and he would do anything.
You're exactly right. The people are what scare me.
Yes.
The people are what's brought Trump to the plate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Claire touched on it right there. If he throws something out there, if the people cheer it on, well, by God, you can count on it.
And Hillary's been weaseling her way towards this position ever since she first tasted the Oval Office with her husband sitting.
I tell you what, I want to go ahead and bring on a caller now. Area code 407. Thank you for calling Anti-Media Radio. This is your host S.M. Gibson. Tell us your name and where you're calling from tonight.
Going once.
Going twice.
All right, well. Anywho.
Fair enough. So, back to your point, Shannon.
That was pretty much about it. With I don't know, I just have to ask the question, whose ego is bigger, Trump or Hillary Clinton?
Trump.
Because let me finish. Because Hillary is very, very well practiced in the art of politics.
Hillary's got more frustration. I'm going to tell you why. Donald Trump, there's never been a no. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Hillary's supposed to be the president in 2008. That did not happen.
No, it didn't.
And she has experienced
Denied.
being told no.
Yeah.
And I think hers is more frustration, and I think she feels more human, like, this may not happen for me. What's going to happen if it don't work out? You can see it in her eyes. Like, what? I don't know what else to do.
Well, let me ask you this question then. Who would be more crushed when they lost?
Oh, I think Hillary would.
Oh, totally.
Are you serious about that?
Oh, yeah. I think Donald Trump expects to win, but, here's one thing. I think Donald Trump probably has some mutual respect for other people in the world. Mm-hmm. Hillary Clinton seems to me like she probably looks down her nose at every single other
living
person.
being that crosses her gaze.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm sure Donald Trump looks down on a large amount of people.
I bet he looks down on her, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're right. He probably does. But for good reason, I think.
Who doesn't look down on her?
And at the same time, he's been a good friend of hers really for the family up until, I guess, this election season. So who knows what that says about him or her?
And sometime,
Well, Shannon, I have a question then on the ego thing.
Yes.
If Trump has the bigger ego, but maybe perhaps they have the same ego needs, then isn't Hillary's ego equally as dangerous because she is kind of going for her last gasp chance at getting in office? And she's doing it because of ego, so...
Yeah. She's got nothing to lose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, she probably has a lot more blood on her hands already.
Oh, wait.
She's got a lot more of a head start than Trump will probably ever have at this point.
So I mean, and either way, we're screwed here because both of these candidates just look god awful. Both of them do. Hillary has a proven track record as being god awful, and people have made, and we've even made this statement on the show that a vote for Hillary is pretty much a vote for more of the same of what we have. We can't afford any more of what we have. I mean, it's terrible. This country's torn apart as it is.
I think we're moving towards something. Now, what that something is, I do not know.
Yeah.
We're definitely moving in the right direction. I mean, we have that clip that I played from earlier. People are getting frustrated. People are speaking up. This has gone on for so long.
So what little, trinket does the government throw at us to pacify us at this point?
I don't know because I feel and again, we're seeing pretty much a little bit of that with Donald Trump because let's be realistic. If the Republican Party really, honest to God, did not want Donald Trump there, he wouldn't be there right now. They would pull every string they had and try to get him Rand Paul'd on down the line. When you've got $10,
right? Yeah.
Here's the thing: when you've got $10 billion and you have and more importantly, it's not the money, but when you can pick up your telephone to any television show in the United States at any moment and talk to them and go, I'm going to go call Anderson Cooper and be on TV. I'm going to go call Sean Hannity and be on TV.
He's on the air right now, and let me just go give him a call.
Yeah, and I can control my own narrative, and I'm the media.
Well,
wait, people like Twitter, and then they tweet. Yeah. So
look at Hillary Clinton's record.
You don't need much.
Look at Hillary Clinton, every other politician's record. They obviously, career politicians are going to have a record that somebody's going to be unhappy with. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has a record. He's a brand. He came into the game already with a track record that most Americans find approving. So, he's got at least a little bit a leg up in an area where, like you said, people are tired of the same old from the political elites. And so now, it's not surprising that somebody else who to some extent is in their own elitist field, but from a different angle, it's no surprise that he would grab at least the attention of a large amount of people. But there's either way we're going to end up with one of these two. It's hard for me to say who I'd rather. I won't say. I think both of them. Either way, we're going to have We're going to have one or two of them, I think.
Justin Trudeau. That's who we're going to.
Is that who you're going to vote for?
Right. It seems to me, just looking at all the evidence of how many people are getting really pissed off, everything is going to pretty much devolve into chaos. There is going to be a large, segment of the population that is really, really irate, no matter who wins.
Oh,
So
I know. That's
really
why I think it's going to kick off in Cleveland, no matter what happens.
Oh yeah.
Because the pro-Trump people are going to get mad, or the people that hate Trump are going to get mad. Somebody's going to throw something.
Somebody's going to get
They're
mad.
probably going to take it all out on the journalists too.
I really wish.
Of course. Yeah, that will happen.
I wish that petition to make the RNC
Do I have to be there for all that?
an open carry event would be freaking
Never
awesome.
mind.
Y'all, neither one of y'all listen to what I just said.
Open carry.
Yes, I think it'd be great.
Why?
Why not?
That's not.
Say it.
I didn't.
Say it.
Going and getting involved in American politics and openly celebrating, not just adhering to, but celebrating the Second Amendment. I think it'd be wonderful. You think Trump looked worried a little while ago on TV?
He did.
He did. We were talking about that.
Yeah.
I think he would look a lot more worried, in a situation like that.
He was looking sketched out.
Of course, then again, then it would just start this massive. You ever seen the thing on the internet where somebody set 500 mouse traps and put little golf balls on them, and then they'll throw the golf ball in there and they all go off at once? Yeah. Man, we need to double check that petition and see. I don't know if I signed that one or not.
Well, it's funny that a lot of people were actually, from my understanding, anti, or not necessarily anti-Second Amendment, but were not gun supporters. And they actually were signing a lot of the petition because they said, hey, let's see how uncomfortable this will make Trump himself feel when, knowing that everybody's going to have suddenly guns. And a lot of people thought it was apparently a big joke. Hey, let's go sign this and see what happens when a lot of these Second Amendment supporters get into a room that are fired up at a Trump rally. So I thought that was an interesting take on at least the petition side of things.
Yeah, but really with a petition, I mean, honestly, can you not get a group of people to sign a sheet of paper?
Oh,
over
right, of course.
anything? I mean, that's how Mark Dice, is making a living, I think.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Well, I got 7,000 people to
You're
sign
right.
my petition.
You're right. Yeah.
You did.
It got up to 7,000.
But
Can you
that was
believe
for
that?
a real thing.
Yeah, sort of.
Sort of.
Nobody sent me an email about it, but
No,
whatever.
I'm sure Michelle's going to hit you up.
Yeah.
She's going to let you know.
In the middle of her busy schedule, feeding all the school children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there was that petition for the national anthem too.
When I think of Michelle Obama, I think of her just like in the garden, like planting like carrots.
I like her.
Organic carrots.
I really do. Out of all the first ladies we've had in a while, I really like her.
I didn't dislike Laura Bush.
She's all right.
She didn't do
She's
nothing.
a decent
She was
woman.
just there.
Yeah, she was a decent woman. She's got a horrible taste in men, but whatever.
Yeah, well, she went for the power.
I mean, with Barry, you can kind of understand, man. Barack Obama.
Oh, I hated her. I hated Michelle Obama at first. Hated
Really?
her.
Why?
Oh, I don't know. I just didn't like her.
Why?
Hated her worse than him, probably.
Why?
But not now.
I don't get this. Why?
I don't know.
You just didn't like her at all.
No, she seemed arrogant. But she don't seem that way to me now.
She's the first lady. She's allowed to be
No,
arrogant.
this was at first.
Peasant.
Nah, but she seems all right now. I mean, they're all scumbags.
I think she's cool. I've never
Here's the
had a
thing.
problem with
Here's
her.
the thing. They're all scumbags. The end, period.
Anyway.
Claire, your turn.
I ain't got nothing against Michelle Obama.
I don't like any of them. I mean, all of these people are just megalomaniacs, and they want to control everybody and want everything their way, and I don't know. It's just I just can't get into liking any of them.
Yeah.
Michelle Obama, that's not directed toward you. At least not for me anyway.
Yeah, it is.
Man.
Shannon just likes the arms.
She's got nice arms. She dresses very
She
nice.
does have nice arms, but that has
She's got
nothing to
good
do with
fashion sense. I bet she's killer in the kitchen too.
Oh, I bet you that woman's never been in the kitchen her life.
I hardly doubt that.
I'll bet she had. Yeah, she ain't no Claire Huxtable. Her husband may be her husband may be drugging a lot of people, but she ain't no Claire Huxtable.
This show is doing so well.
Two-step.
Two-step
this, man.
Kevin, I think we need a mutiny. Claire, are you in?
Overthrow it.
Sure. Yeah. No. I don't know.
She's down. You're fired. Boom. Gone.
Scotty's quick. You got to be careful.
Overthrow
I
it,
think we
raise
can
the
over. I
black
think we can
flags.
overtake him, but he's pretty quick. You might try to fight dirty too.
So, looking at what we're seeing moving forward with this election, Claire, I mean, where do you see it going?
You know, that's a really good question, and I've been thinking a lot about that, and I'm honestly not sure. I'm even wondering. I mean, if the Republican convention is contested or brokered or whatever, I mean, in the Democratic Party, I mean, like everything is chaos right now. If you think about it, it's blatantly they're just trying to take the nominations for the establishment candidates away from people who, for whatever reason, the people are choosing. And when you do that, you are really going to piss off a lot of people. And so even when they install whoever they install in office, then after that, I think that there is going to be a very negative mood, and a lot of things are going to happen in the years following this election. So regardless of who they put in office or who ends up being quote-unquote elected, I think that there will be either a very negative turn or perhaps a very positive turn towards change. But I think that that is kind of up to the people and how they want to take it.
I believe either way that change is coming.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or whether it's bad, we're at the fork in the road, and which path
it's inevitable
will we take?
Not to mention a $19 trillion debt that's going to be staring down the face of any administration, whether or not they want to pay attention to it or not. But you know, we've had many fights over the debt and the debt ceiling, raising it here in the past couple of years. So it'll be interesting to see how that's handled here in the next coming up few years.
And we also have, like, you know, the oil prices and, like, our really weird oil glut and the strange things happening with the stock market and such. I mean, there could be very easily, to kind of distract from all of this mess and get people focused on something else, there could very easily be a financial crisis kind of shortly after somebody comes to office.
Okay, so Claire, what's the over-under on the 28 pages not being released at all, period? It ain't going to happen.
Is that what happened now?
Is that what you say? Is that what you think?
I can't imagine that they would. But I don't know.
It's been given so much attention now too. Barack Obama said that the administration will decide whether or not they're going to release it in the next 60 days. If he doesn't release
but the
it,
way they have responded is basically just saying, "Oh no, we clearly have done this."
Oh yeah, right.
And you cannot see what's in there.
Right, that's kind of what I was thinking. It doesn't seem like anybody's really pointed that out. I mean, they did this. That's why they don't want to release it. And sorry, we're going to tell you basically that we did it, but you can't see what it is that we did, and so you're left to just guess, and then you'll forget.
Yeah, I mean, and they're behaving like this is bigger than I thought. But maybe because I already assume.
What does Saudi Arabia have to, what do they have to lose? Are they afraid of the lawsuits? Are they afraid of what it will look like worldwide? Are they afraid of the fall? What are they afraid of the fallout from?
You know, it's possible that our politicians are much, much, much more involved than we're considering. I mean, not just the Saudis, obviously. Maybe it's the Israelis too, like people say. Maybe it's us as well, like more than we thought.
That our politicians are implicated in the 28 pages. That's my personal belief. I don't think there's probably any U.S. implication in it.
No, probably not. But it does raise the question why they hid it from and how they
right now. That's where the whole question comes in. Well, obviously they're going to say it was for national security purposes because the national interest of Saudi Arabia and oil and blah 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 blah, and that's what they're going to say. And it worked out. So everybody chill out. That's what they're going to say.
Hard to argue with that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe if they make a bigger deal of it than what they were doing before, then they can more easily get away with just saying, nope, sorry, you can't see it because it's way, way, way too secret. And
it's apparently bad, though, because of the way they're acting. You would figure they would just be like, well, we don't want this to happen. We prefer it not to. They're not saying we prefer it not to. They're saying we will literally start pulling assets. That's it.
Right. Well, they're afraid.
We're done.
They're obviously afraid. And, when you've got the Obama administration saying they're going to rule on it, and they actually said that he was asked about it, Obama was asked about it when he first got into office, if he would release the 28 pages or would he put pressure on it to be released. And I think he said he would try to address it. So now that you've got the head of the country that hosted the events, or in which the events happened, arguably the most influential country that kicked off the whole war on terror that had global implications, and now the Saudis are afraid that, hey, this bubble's about to bust. I'm not surprised, but obviously the Saudis are scared. They would not. This is not just they've got to know more, like you said, Claire, that even like our senators, they have to know more than what we know. Otherwise, it doesn't seem like a country would
Well,
come
we
out.
know, okay, what we know is that Saudi officials were meeting with the hijackers. That's supposedly going to come out, which ties them directly to the Saudi.
Well, and the funding, to my understanding, who paid Muhammad Atta, who wired the money, who was the source of the money
but
that was wired.
Who knows what all's in there and how far it goes, and
Let me ask you a question: does Osama bin Laden appear in these 28 pages?
I would be suspect.
I would assume no.
I would too.
I've actually wondered that myself.
I would assume no, and I would also assume, I have always personally thought that the 28 pages are not going to be as groundbreaking as we think.
Despite what people have said who've seen them?
No, I think because we're so tamed to the story.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Which
That's a
28
good point,
pages
yeah.
are you going to say?
You see what I'm saying? Right. It's just like, I think what we'll get is they'll go, okay, Saudi Arabia was involved, and everybody's going to go, oh, no. And it's like, we knew that 10 years ago. I don't think it'll get into any cover-up, any bushes, or any implosion. I don't think it'll go there.
If we listen to what Thomas Massey says, the implications of where the U.S. goes forward from here with the way that it deals with war, with further wars, I think the implications could be really substantial, especially with...
Maybe it shows it was a big ploy by Saudi Arabia and Israel to drag us into war. Because that is definitely something that, me running my mouth has said from time to time.
Well, a lot of people have mentioned Israel, but I'll be honest with you. From my understanding, Israel had actually notified the U.S. that they expected, told them, kind of gave them a heads up that, there were some fishy things to be going on. So I've not heard Israel's name. Maybe we wouldn't hear it, but I know that Bob Graham, Thomas Massey, and a few other people who have read this, Saudi Arabia is a name they mention or that's associated with him. Israel has not been a name mentioned, but it would not surprise me.
Here's what's good. Here's the question. How do they explain, if it points right to them, which it sounds like it does, how does that explain the Bushes walking on a ranch in Crawford, Texas with the royal family after 9/11? How do they explain that? George Bush what did the Bushes do? Like, they'd have to move. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like, they would have to leave the country or go to prison. Like, we're talking war, like massive, 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 unignorable war crimes. Just on the implication that it points right at Saudi Arabia. And the Bushes are palling around with them.
Have been for quite some time.
Somebody's covering something up.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about the President of the United States covering that up, which of course we already suspect, but now we're talking about it coming out in everyday society, well, we got a problem.
Yep. But, I don't know. You kind of have to feel a little sorry for G-Dub. You know that none of that he had anything to do with. He was
I don't
just there to
know.
do
I go
exactly
back and
what his
forth.
daddy
I
wanted him
know.
to do.
I go back and forth on that.
I'm sorry. He just has never.
He don't. Sometimes I kind of feel bad for him.
No, look, I'm not
Dick
saying.
Cheney, I think.
I'm not saying that.
But sometimes I feel bad for Daddy.
I'm not saying George W. Bush is as dumb as the Will Ferrell George W. Bush on Saturday Night Live. I'm just talking about the guy that was completely dumbfounded when those planes first hit the building. He was completely dumbfounded for a half a second while he was sitting there reading those books to those children.
It's interesting that when he gave an account of it to a group of people shortly thereafter, that he claimed that he actually witnessed the first plane hit the buildings when there was no actual recordings that to release to the public of the first plane hitting. I kind of tend to believe maybe that was a
Here's the
misspeak.
thing.
But
Here's the thing. It's come from George W. Bush. You know the stupid stuff he said. That don't mean he saw any plane.
I think he probably knows afterwards, but I don't think he knew beforehand.
He could have been talking about going for ice cream and accidentally said that.
And that's kind of like, I don't think that there's anything dark and sinister about George W. Bush. Now, the people that he surrounded himself.
Oh, yes. Correct.
Dick Cheney?
Yes.
Dick Cheney?
Right,
Dick
that's
Cheney?
where I'm
Dick
going.
Cheney?
Rumsfeld,
Yeah. Karl Rove.
Daddy Bush, all of them.
It would probably be more of a liability to have George Bush know about it. Then again, it's important to remember that him and Dick Cheney both, and if I'm not mistaken, Donald Rumsfeld, actually testified off the record and in secret and not to any kind of public record whatsoever. So, if you remember correctly, they refused to go on and to be to testify independently. They had to be together.
Oh yeah.
Remember though too. Also, when we were thinking of invading, it was his advisors that were trying to convince him to use the weapons of mass destruction thing, and I think they fooled him very easily. I don't think it was him at all. He was just kind of like, okay, let's do it because they convinced him.
Well, you're only as good as your intel.
Dad wouldn't lie to me. But I tell you what, we're going to get into this and more and get on to the topic of Oklahoma City and Waco on the second side of the hour with Anti-Media Radio. This is your host, S.M. Gibson. We will be back in just a few. Thanks for tuning in.
Why do we? My last performance was a smash. There were tears and there were laughs. Follow me. I am this week's featured artist. I'm the face of the Observer's free magazine. You say that I am untouchable, that I hardly try. But if you try to get to know me, you'd see the more than what you heard in the words. I could be one, I could be one, I could be one, I could be one. I could be one. My friends were of the age to leave or to engage. When your colleagues are all criminals, comforted like girls, singing, every little thing gonna be okay, baby. I know I never mastered the art of my trembling heart to rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. I will never rehearse. No. Never rehearse. Now I'm in sang in all the bars in the days when they were stars. Shot glasses on the tables, so taken and unable. It wasn't just some cunning stunt to get me on the front of that free magazine. I could be one, I could be one, I could be one, I could be one, but never conquered, never conquered. You'll find me in a grave in Rome. Don't try me on a map, come alone. You'll see me in the mist once known. Don't trace me on a map, come alone.
That is a great new artist called Myler Jones, and you are listening to Anti-Media Radio. This is the second hour. I'm your host, S.M. Gibson, joined here with Kevin and Shannon. Myler Jones is actually a new artist whose very first album, 2013, came out at the very end of March. So check him out. Like to support independent music, something new we're starting to do. So, Shane and Kevin, what have y'all thought about the songs and the artists that we've had so far since we've been
had some
doing
really
this?
good ones. Yeah, we definitely would like to. Any musicians out there, unsigned musicians, would like to get your music out there and get heard by a different audience. Definitely send it to us. Email address?
Yeah, at contact@theantimedia.org.
Actually, I dig all of them, especially the biggest thing. I don't hear them on the radio every day. I get so tired of hearing your everyday, your average radio mix, man. It's good to hear something different for a while, especially a lot of independent artists. So glad to know the Anti-Media is doing what they can to promote these guys.
Yeah, and hopefully we can start branching out into to other things. We've got a lot of stuff in the works, and hopefully more of that will be coming soon. We are also joined here on the second hour of Anti-Media Radio with Ms. Claire Burnish. Claire, how's it going?
It's going really, really, really well. Thank you. How's it going for you?
Doing good here. Ready to tackle the second hour of the show. So as we mentioned at the beginning, today is the anniversary of what went down in Waco, Texas in 1993 and Oklahoma City in 1995. I don't know about you, Claire, but I remember where I was for both of those events, which happens to be the same place. But
I'm a little fuzzier on those than I am for 9/11. But I remember being like shocked by both events and not understanding like it. I mean, I think that was kind of early in the whole process of understanding exactly how nefarious the government can be, and you know that it. I don't know. That was crazy. Both events.
I mean, the Waco story is just completely unbelievable. That we had, First off, a situation where David Koresh could have been picked up by the authorities. David Koresh was a bad guy. He could have been picked up by authorities, should have been picked up by authorities. You know, he was doing stuff he shouldn't have been doing. It's funny, to me, Waco really resembles our foreign policy, too. So instead of going in as David Koresh goes into town, you know, they could have gotten him. Nope, they didn't care. So they, you know, start this whole beef, and they get in this big standoff with each other and start firing back and forth. And next thing you know, they're running a tank through the side of the building, and everyone's dead. And a bunch of children are dead.
And a huge fire engulfs the building. And
correct. And like, you know, it was, what was the story? Like a lamp or some garbage fell over? I don't even know.
Right. Well,
Yes,
they claimed they had set. They also claimed that these people had set the fire. That Koresh and him had set the fire.
Because they're crazy religious zealots. Of course, they would set the
Yeah,
fire.
it has nothing to do. It was just so happens that the fire set, and then our tank went into the side of the building.
Yeah. To help put the fire out.
Do you
sure.
understand?
Yeah.
They understood those kids were in there. Like they got that. They understood that concept and did not phase them.
Well, I mean, kids would understand that a tank's fixing to drive through the side of the house, so they would naturally just move to the side.
Well, what kind of kicked off some of that, if you remember seeing, and one of the things that really opened my eyes to this was a great documentary called A Noble Lie. It's on Netflix, I believe, still right now. It actually showed a lot of the footage that we did not see, including the tank that you're talking about going through, but it showed actual some kind of liquid being basically immersed into the building, which apparently is what caused the flame.
To help put the fire out.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
But that video actually, and they had an interesting interview with the local sheriff who explained that, you know, David Koresh, he didn't necessarily have a personality that a lot of people agreed with, and some people had some issues with him, but he said himself that what happened and when the feds took over, that this should have not have happened, that they basically took this out of their district. But I would encourage anybody that's Claire, I know you mentioned you're a little bit fuzzy on the details. I am too, especially compared to something like 9/11.
The same people presided both investigations. The same guy presided over both investigations.
Strange.
Yeah, believe it. And Ruby Ridge. That's cute too, isn't it?
Which is one of the things that Timothy McVeigh claimed that he was actually supposedly bombing OKC for was in response to, of course, what happened at Ruby Ridge and what happened at out at David Koresh at Waco. Interesting how all that ties back in together, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, completely. Speaking of Timothy McVeigh, I'm wearing my beautiful shirt right now. Timothy McVeigh that everyone rolls their eyes at, but I don't care.
I just did, actually.
It's cool. Timothy McVeigh is fear.
I do like the shirt.
Yeah.
It is a cool shirt.
That's right. It's cool. But Timothy McVeigh was not cool. I believe, from all indications, that more than likely Timothy McVeigh was probably still working for the United States government when he died. I do not, it's one of those things. It's your hunch, it's your belief. Oklahoma City is a lot like 9/11, and you know what happened. You just don't know. You don't know everything that happened. You don't know. You know what didn't happen, I guess. Should I say? We know a lot more about Oklahoma City, though. Terrence Yakey, that story is the one I go on and on and on about. And I know I drive everybody bonkers with it, but I don't care. Officer Terrence Yakey was an Oklahoma City police officer that on this day, 21 years ago, saved 8 people out of a building that exploded, was a hero. Realized that the story that was being told by the federal government, the federal agents, the media, and the politicians was not what actually transpired that day. He was there. He witnessed it. He saw bombs in the building, despite the story and the narrative of just the solo rider truck. He knew that there was more than what the government was reporting. So Terry and Shaky started collecting files and information and evidence to support what actually took place that day, to get the truth out, the true version of events. And so he began getting threatened and started getting followed. So different little things would start happening to him. But eventually he was going out to dinner, and he actually had a storage unit too. He had so much information in a storage unit and was keeping it, his information on Oklahoma City, on the bombing and what happened that day, in a storage unit in El Reno, right outside the city. Anyway, so he was going out there to put some information. He was at his apartment with a friend and said, I'm going to go run this out there, then we'll go back and go get some dinner. As soon as I lose these feds, I'll come back and we'll get some dinner. That's the last thing any of his loved ones ever heard him say. He was found the next day. Death by suicide. He had killed himself. How he killed himself was fairly gruesome. Let me just see if I can read some of it. Unfortunately,
yeah, he actually had his wrist cut, and had to have cut his wrist and his neck before he actually left the car and locked it. But he actually walked a mile through a field before he supposedly shot himself through the head at a real unusual angle. No gun, of course, was ever.
He shot himself. The execution style on the back of the head. There was no gun ever found,
Nope.
But it was by suicide. There were actually there was never an autopsy really done, but there were marks around his hands where he'd been handcuffed. He was anemic and somehow managed to drag himself through that field as far as he did. But of course, it was suicide. And this is an officer. You know, what's so, I think, completely ridiculous and hypocritical and really frustrating to me is the way that so many people in this country talk about police officers, and they talk about, oh, wait, they're great, they're heroes that stand up for them no matter what, kill a 12-year-old child, who cares, doesn't bother me. And then you get a story about a cop like this that's doing the right thing, gets what appears to be 100% murdered by the United States government. And you should also, by the way, there is a video on YouTube called Who is Terrence Shaky? I highly urge you to go look at that video. The way they treated his family was extremely insulting as well. And that kind of breaks down more of the story in depth, that video. But we have an officer now who is an actual hero, okay? That's doing the right thing. Killed, who cares? Big deal. Not my problem. And I get it, okay? It was a long time ago. That's what everybody says. Oh, Scott, it was a long time ago. So what? It was a long time ago. Big deal. Does, justice have an expiration date? The last time I checked, it didn't. So, yeah, Oklahoma City is one of those topics that I can just sit here and go on and on and on about.
Well, it's when the federal government under Clinton actually took a big step and passed a bunch of new anti-terrorism legislation.
Well, the original version of the Patriot Act, with the help of Mr. Joe Biden, was presented after the Oklahoma City bombing.
And given some teeth just a scant few years later.
Oh, yeah, once they had a real attack to get it through. Yeah. Because, and that's unfortunate to say, a real attack. I mean, those people dying was horrible. So, I mean, I please don't want it to sound, it's probably as cruel as that sounded. But
none of them that were apparently ATF agents, because even as the news reported, what's crazy, what's funny, is that you go back and look at a lot of the events. If you repiece a lot of the information together, the news actually had a lot of the events the 2 or 3 days afterwards and I know there's a lot of fog of war type stuff where information gets kind of passed around, but they actually came out with a lot of events that when you look back on it will show you that the official narrative is completely just heinous to even believe in. But even federal agents and police officers, people of respected authority, what generally are respected authority, will tell you that, hey, there's a list of stuff that just does not make sense whatsoever.
It's got U.S. military on Timothy McVeigh's death certificate. And the reason I think that that's interesting is because before Timothy McVeigh resurfaced from military life to civilian life, when he resurfaced back in the civilian world, right before that, when he was in the military, he was corresponding with his family, and told about how he was, going to be in some secret, special, blah, blah, blah thing. He was, real proud of himself, and great. Next thing you know, he's out of the military. That never happened, and he's living amongst some radical people and finds his way down to Elohim City and hooks up with a guy named Andy Strasberg, who is German intelligence, and they were living there together, it appears. It also appears that Andy Strasberg who is German intelligence, was the John Doe number 2 character. Everybody remembers. I'll never forget that as a kid, that they were like, okay, it's these people. These are drawings. It's these people that did it. It's the drawings. These are the guys. And then
I remember that too.
And then it just kept going away. Like the pictures would just go away. Okay, it was this guy right here. It was just this
right.
Guy. It's like, what are those other drawings? Did y'all throw them away or?
They were bad drawings.
And even as a
first draft,
even as a kid, I thought that was bizarre. I was like, "What happened to those guys? Didn't you say they did this? Do we not need to be concerned about those people anymore if they did do it?" So Andy Strasberg is apparently one of the other drawings. John Doe number 2, 2 or 3, I think it was 2.
German intelligence.
Yeah, it goes deep, and then there's the story of Trinity, and that's a whole to-do, no pun intended. I could go in depth, but I could sit here and bore people to death with that. But I highly encourage people to go check out the documentary "A Noble Lie." Kevin, I know you've got a couple of other documentaries too, and places to point people to get really more into the Oklahoma City kind of what really happened.
Yeah, James Corbett's got a great inside look at the at Timothy McVeigh, including going through what the process is known as sheep dips, what you're talking about, where he was in the military and he, for all intents and purposes, left the military where a person, and it's actually an intelligence term, it's not just a conspiracy term, it's a legitimate term that people use to refer to individuals that were in the military or the armed forces to some degree that apparently excelled at what they do. They drop out and basically enter kind of a dark world of I guess of not necessarily spies, but working for a different clandestine arm of the military. And it seems that that looks like he was actually a member of said group and gone through said process. But yeah, there's a lot of information out there. It's
okay. I'm going to go ahead and jump in and interrupt you real quick. Based on all the information that you've seen, completely speculative, what's your kind of assumption of what happened and why it happened? Or do you even have any idea? Or are you just kind of like, I don't know what happened that day?
I really don't, but I'll tell you this. I know watching the news reports, it seemed like there were multiple bombs in the building, multiple reports or multiple bombs actually found, reported, not explosions reported like we heard on 9/11.
There were eyewitnesses that worked in that building that saw Timothy McVeigh and Andy Strasberg putting up bombs in the basement of that building.
There was a bomb squad vehicle parked across the building within an hour of the actual explosion.
Before.
Right.
Yeah.
And all of ATF actually did not show up. For a majority of ATF.
Did any ATF? I don't believe any ATF.
My understanding, none of them were there. And the news actually reported there was a call placed to ATF headquarters or some.
And let me remind people, because you hear what the daycare, how if the U.S. government would do this, they would do it with children. Like, okay, do we not just get done talking about how 2 years later, on the exact same day, we saw the U.S. government run a tank through the side of a building with a whole bunch of kids in it? So yeah, I think they would do it. And again, that's something that I want to talk about earlier too. That's Waco, to me, exemplifies U.S. foreign policy. Okay, you get somebody who is David Koresh and Saddam Hussein, for example. Neither are good guys. Neither should probably be doing what they're doing. This is not really good. Something should be done about this. But what shouldn't be done about it is just go blow the whole thing up and just kill them all. That will make the problem go away, but it doesn't really fix anything. It's just mass murder.
Well, there's always an ulterior motive too. Even when Iraq and when Saddam Hussein, George Bush gave that New World Order speech, but he laid out basically what their objective is. And one of the things that he reminded people was it was an opportunity to test basically the United Nations and their ability to act as a global enforcement arm of the UN. So in that respect, whatever our concerns were the U.S. had with Saddam, it was about a much bigger plan of operation that was to happen as a result. So obviously this happened with OKC, with all the legislation that were passed. We saw it big.
Well, they didn't get it all passed, but it's kind of the birth of all
push.
that.
Right,
it was a big push for it. It was kind of the first heavy go around where we're going to try to get all this through. Plus, the technology wasn't quite there yet.
And a lot of the it was really a big push to demonize a lot of the militias, the growing what the administration saw.
But I think too. I don't think that. I think Oklahoma City. Even I don't know why it was done. I know that clearly bombs and that truck is going to blow up from the top and go blow a hole into the ground. It's not going to affect that building. It's certainly not going to take the front off of that building. So no, it was blown up from.
But you had multiple seismologists that were interviewed for a Noble Lie reported.
Yeah, so that building was 100% blown up from the inside. I believe Timothy McVeigh was working for the U.S. government. My personal opinion, based on the evidence that I've seen.
Not necessarily the president, but a faction ultimately. I guess, from my understanding, what you're saying, ultimately tied to the U.S. government. I know a lot of people are saying that.
When I say that, I think that's a great point. When I say that, I don't mean like everybody just knew he was an employee. No,
right.
It's so back channel, dark. 3 people know he works for him, if that. So that kind of thing. I don't know what there was to gain. I know it was. One thing they did gain from it and needed to gain was the bad PR that had happened once they had an ATF agent shoot a mother in the head holding her child in Ruby Ridge. That didn't look too good on them. And then they turn around, a year or two later, and then again, I keep saying this because they ran a tank through the side of a building with children in it. The U.S. government, it happened here in the United States, in Texas. Just below Fort Worth. You just killed and mass murdered a bunch of people.
And used the Delta Force.
That's it.
Against American citizens.
That's it. So, I don't know. That's me ranting. Claire, do you have any thoughts? I'll shut up now and pass the baton to somebody much more.
I was enjoying listening to what you guys were talking about. I mean, like Waco. I think Waco was a really big sign when you knew all of those people were in there, whether you agreed with what they were doing or not, or thought that they had done something wrong or not. They were victims, and they were kids, and they were innocent people that were in there. And for me at the time, it was stunning. I mean, it really shocked me.
And it's still shocking to this day. I mean, again, while the cameras are all rolling, while all the news crews are there, it was yet another demonstration of the power of the United States government when they don't get their way. Right off the bat, that's how it works. The boot comes out and your neck goes under it. So, Lavoy Finicum, anyone? Remember that guy?
They didn't run a tank through the side of his house.
No, they just shot him in broad daylight.
Yeah.
He gave it up. Got out. Hands are up. Then he suddenly dropped his hands. He's reaching for the weapon. Wink, wink.
I mean, if you're going to go, look, you go down that road with so many people. Mm-hmm. So many people. Michael Hastings, anybody, I don't care. Say what you want.
That's a name I've not heard mentioned in a while.
Uh-huh. For those who do not know the story of journalist Michael Hastings, I highly encourage that one. That's a Google. Let's start getting a list. Let's start compiling a list. This stuff. So
we should have compiled a list beforehand.
No, we shouldn't, man. I can't show these people on Google what these things are.
We're not going to redact our 28 pages.
It's interesting.
We're going to keep it redacted.
General Wesley Clark, he's one of the guys that infamous for giving the 7 countries in 5 years speech. He actually did an article, I think, op-ed, but gave his opinions on the Michael Hastings death.
Did he really? I don't know if I've seen
If
this.
I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure I'm not, but he talked about and basically about the idea that I think we've since been proven that the vehicle that Michael Hastings was driving has been shown to be able to be hacked remotely.
Wesley Clark
pretty
said
easily.
that?
If I'm not mistaken, I know it sounds really crazy. I'll have to look it up, but I know it sounds really.
That does sound nuts.
That's not a name that generally pops out in my mind, so I'll do some more digging on that.
Oh yeah, but completely. I mean, it's just sad that we live in a country where we openly discuss these assassinations like they're no big deal. We discuss our elections; they're rigged. It's no big deal.
An unfortunate piece of history. Oh well. We'll do
and I
better
think
next
the
time.
frustrating thing for me.
Yes, I was correct, by the way.
Real did he? Wow. That's impressive. Last I heard, he was going back towards the wrong end of the spectrum. He was
dark side.
Yeah, he was promoting some nonsense.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's shocking that he would say that.
Wesley Clark has kind of, I don't know, made some...
Yeah, he has. He flirts with...
The last few times that what was the last thing? Oh,
that's
gracious.
The thing with Wesley Clark for me has always been that he'll say something and it's just like, oh, wow, this guy. And then he'll say something else and you're just like, I don't know anymore. But, yeah, it'd be interesting if he ever tried to run for president again, which clearly it's, probably never going to happen. Unless Hillary goes to prison and I don't know.
Well, maybe after this presidential election, we probably will learn our lesson and never elect another one. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
That'd be cool.
I don't care.
I'm totally
Call
cool
me
with
a
that.
sheep. I put in Ron Paul or Ric Flair.
Firm and Supreme. Anyone?
I'm telling you, man, I'm so against that pony policy. You almost did it. Hour and a half it took you to mention Vermin Supreme. Well done.
I know. Thank you. I'm trying to cut back.
Yeah, you need to.
You hush your mouth.
You're a verminholic.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, Claire, try to pull us out of the ditch as usual. You have.
I'm not even sure what to do with all of this.
You have quite a few stories here on the front page, the antimedia.org. What story stood out to you the most today as the most intriguing?
Well, okay.
I see that you wrote the Utah lawmakers literally think porn is a public health hazard.
Oh, porn. I want to talk about
there
porn.
You go.
Yeah, and
go into that.
The thing is, with I actually, and this is gonna, I can't even say it that way. That'll sound terrible. I I studied kind of the academic side of porn before, or at least I was present when people were studying it.
Why?
There's a very serious academic debate about porn. So writing this was really interesting because calling, I don't know.
Just making a thumbnail for that article today. I'll be honest with you.
I mean,
Tell me you only read Playboy for the articles, right?
I don't know how to read.
Not you, Claire.
What? No. No, I'm not having that discussion.
Was it swank? Or was it one of the nasty ones?
Well, actually, that brings up the point, though, actually. I mean, isn't this something that should really be in the bedroom or in somebody's private life and not, like, displayed in public? Like, Utah's doing it because they're using the guise of protecting children and they want to, end child pornography. But, like, Utah actually has somebody, I think Harvard did the study, Utahans purchase the most online porn of any state in the country. So clearly, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how to discuss this on air.
Discuss it on air.
No, it's cool. I'm good. We're talking about porn. This is something I'm an expert in.
It's just that, I mean, okay, the more prudish a state tends to be, the more conservative socially a state tends to be, the more you repress anything, in a culture, like using alcohol prohibition or cannabis prohibition or any drug prohibition as an example, the more you suppress something, the more you make anything taboo, the more appealing it is to everyone. So,
Alabama!
Like those, yeah, that's a good.
There's a bunch, and I think there was.
Wait, the family, who is the Duggar family?
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. I saw them at a Cracker Barrel in Nashville one day.
Of course you did.
A lot of people.
They are crackers.
But anyway, I tell you what, I am going to go ahead and bring on another wonderful guest, surprise guest for our sound director over here, who's just gazing at me like, what's going on?
What the hell are you doing now? Yeah, this better be good.
He's better than you, I'll tell you that.
Anybody's better than me.
He's better than me, too. Mr. Justin King. Justin, how's it going?
Surprise! How's it going? Pretty good.
Doing good, man. So what's going on in Justin Fitzcollum world?
Not much. Same old stuff. I mean, we released the apps, but other than that, I mean, everything's going very smoothly. No huge news.
Cool. What are you taking away from the election tonight? Anything new? Are you seeing anything different, or are we moving along the path as always?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of figured it would go to Hillary. I don't.
I was kind of.
It is what it is.
How much she won by, though. I thought he would do better, but and I say that while at the same time having just gone on a huge rant about it was rigged anyway. So I talk. I just hear myself say stuff.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like the bigger news to me today was they reduced that cop's. The judge just unilaterally reduced the cop's charge.
Yeah,
that's there in New York.
Yeah, for those who hadn't heard that, Justin, why don't you go into that a little bit more?
Basically, police accountability had a win. They got a cop convicted of manslaughter. And short version of the events is the guy walks upstairs, pulls his gun out for no apparent reason, discharges it for no apparent reason. It hits the hallway, bounces up, and kills a guy. They got him for manslaughter. I mean, and that is the perfect charge. That's what he did. He was looking at like 15 years, walks into the courtroom, judge throws out the charge, sentences him to 800 hours of community service and like 4 years probation or something like that. So
unbelievable.
Yeah, like I don't want to encourage anything, but I'm actually disappointed that city's not on fire right now. But
well, it is a rather amazing though that we still have no police accountability whatsoever. It's, I mean, you know, you would have figured there's been enough noise made about it that there would be at least somewhat more of a half-hearted attempt at some sort of semblance of justice. I mean, you know, the cases of Eric Garner, which there were no charges even filed in that case. The case with Tamir Rice. You know, it seems like the only one that I can think of that's actually had, I can't even think of a single one.
Oh, back up. There were charges in Eric Garner. Except unfortunately, they were against the guy that actually videotaped the whole incident.
That's right. The police are still walking free.
Hey, at least they charged somebody.
Right.
Yeah. Justice was served.
Exactly. How dare that guy.
Hot plates of justice.
How
then
dare
supposedly
that guy
tried to
film
poison that guy, and then the guy claimed that there were evidence that he and a bunch of other guys got sick. There were something put in the food, I believe, in the jail cells in the jail that he was being held at. So
it was probably just a mistake in the kitchen. That's all.
Of course.
I'm sure that's all.
Convenience.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the last person to say there ought to be a law, but at this point, I think we need a federal law that basically says if you shoot an unarmed person while acting as a law enforcement officer, you're doing 20 years. I mean, we have mandatory minimums for everything else. So
I think the biggest thing, and of course with that, I agree with that completely. And I think at minimum we need, of course, that is the minimum that we should have. Of course, a great stepping stone would be to have at least to require anytime this happens to have an outside investigation and not have it looked at by the same basically the same group of people who are responsible or who actually committed the crime. A lot of times, you know, it's the same investigation or the same group of people who are looking at it. It's not exactly bias free when looking at a lot of these incidents.
It's never bias free, man. Come on. I mean, you know, that's like somebody that owns a dog and their dog goes and tears up the neighbor's yard. And so they take the dog back over to the owner to decide what kind of punishment the dog. Well, you were a bad dog. You get back in this yard. And that's about it.
I don't know why you're lying to me like this. Ain't none of that's true. Sean Hannity didn't tell me any of this, so I don't believe it.
Have you ever seen that man's hair?
It's a nice helmet.
That is beautiful hair.
It's good helmet hair.
God, I mean, really, if I had hair like that, I would be somebody. I wouldn't be sitting here in a room with you.
You might be president, huh?
Well, I tell you what,
running for president.
I want to take advantage of having Mr. Justin King on the line and go back to the topic a little bit of Oklahoma City. Justin, what are your overall thoughts of not just Oklahoma City but Waco and both, and how they tie in together? And it, you know, it's not really a conversation that comes up that much, you know, especially with 9/11 and the myriad of other things. But yeah, your overall take on Oklahoma City.
My overall take, well, let's start with the bombing. My overall take on the bombing, and you know my stance on conspiracy theories, but yeah, he didn't do that alone. I don't know who I don't have the information on who did it, but what I can tell you is nobody with the unit that he was in, who's in the military, knows how to direct a charge like that. What he did takes a lot of advanced training that he did not have. This isn't something, I mean, you can read the theory in, you know, certain IED manuals and stuff like that, but to apply it at the level he did with the accuracy that he did that's not something you're going to get out of a book. You're going to have practice that over and over and over again at that scale. McVeigh and Nichols did not operate alone.
Okay,
they were involved.
Let me somebody with your experience. Okay, how many years had it been between McVeigh actually dying to when he had been out of the military? It had been well over a decade.
Yeah.
Do you think it was weird that on his death certificate, it was listed his occupation was U.S. military? Is that weird, or is that just whatever?
I don't know. It's odd. I don't know that that's a confirmation that he was in the military when he died.
Right.
But honestly, my best guess on that, on what happened, was that there were a lot of other people involved, and the FBI knew that these guys weren't going to talk and just shut the case, close the case. That would be my guess. Because this was during the time period when they really stopped, it's the same way today. They stopped investigating and learning how to investigate and gather evidence, and more relied on testimony. It's the federal system. And if you have people that aren't going to talk, you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, if you look at a drug case, they find 500 pounds of pot, they can tie it to 25 people. However, a guy detonates a multi-thousand-pound bomb, and it was 2 guys. That's it. End of story. Shut up. Don't ask any more questions.
Oh, yeah.
The logistics that were involved in that, there's just... 2 guys did not do that. Now, whether or not it was, some people think it was the Iraqis, some people think it was, our own government, some people think whatever. I don't have an answer. But what I will tell you is there is no way that those 2 clowns pulled that off by themselves.
Oh, I know, and the lists go on and on and on and on of what happened that day. I think again, if not motive, it was definitely, I think, used as a shield to cover up Waco and Ruby Ridge to a lesser degree.
Yeah,
because the ATF had really messed up twice.
Yeah, Waco was if you just want to go to the tactical standpoint, it was a complete disaster from the second it started, because basically it boiled down to a bunch of cops wanting to be...
It never had to start. That's what I don't understand. It never had to start. That guy went into town all the time. They literally just could have walked up to him and arrested him.
Right. I mean, this is one of those things with, it's the opposite scenario of the bombing, because you have all of these resources available. And with the amount of surveillance and everything that they had put in and the amount of resources they had on call, they didn't know the guy went jogging and got ice cream.
Yeah.
They wanted to make a dramatic raid. That's what they wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And even once they found out they knew they were coming, they still went ahead with it, which we haven't talked about this one here, but if you're going to win in a firefight, in any type of armed engagement, you need speed, surprise, and violence of action. They didn't have 2 of those 3. There was no way they were going to win that, but they were relying on compliance, and they didn't get it. None of that should have happened. None of it. But, hindsight, I guess.
Yeah, but that seems more of you should have some foresight on that. None of it makes sense. Even as they were doing it, people that didn't question the government were looking at that being like, what are they doing?
Right.
And Dan Reno looked like a fool.
At the end of the day, they burned down a church, man. I mean, crazy church, but a church. That's what they did. And most of the allegations that they leveled about drug use, sexual abuse, all of this stuff, most of it turned out to not be true.
And think about the intention of what they did, knowing they were doing it, the children inside. And of course, somebody that keeps up with world events, the U.S. government does that every day. That happens. But for it to happen in a ranch in Texas, that doesn't happen every day. And everybody just kind of shrugged.
No, and they went in under the guise of helping the children, so they just went in and killed all the children. So that had to have helped.
Right, it had to have helped
You
them.
can't molest somebody who's not.
And then
not
that's the
alive.
theory too. Like if you give the argument about Oklahoma City, and it's just like, okay, well, the facts kind of make sense for this story to be true, but I just can't believe the United States government would even be kind of involved in killing some kids at that day because they knew that daycare was there. It's like, well, look at Waco.
Well, look at every country that the U.S. bombs.
Oh, of course. Well, they don't want to hear that. No, that's overseas. They can't accept that.
That's brown people. We don't care about brown people.
Right.
Remember?
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And there's no there is no clearer example of that than yesterday, and we ran an article about this. Yesterday, we had a State Department employee, an ambassador, I think, and her convoy. They were in Cameroon, and her convoy was traveling around 60 miles an hour, and this is Africa. These are not roads you can travel 60 miles an hour on, and they ran over a 7-year-old boy and kept driving. They killed him. They did call for an ambulance for him, though. So, I mean, we have to give them credit for that, but they didn't even
They
stop.
could have saved his life that way.
Yeah, I mean, they easily, with the stuff that's in a security convoy, they could have stopped and saved that kid's life. But so there's your value of brown people from the U.S. government.
It's just, I don't even know what to say after hearing that. Like, that's disgusting. Like, can you think about if that would have happened in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Like, what the story would be? Much different.
Yeah, it's utterly insane. And their response is that, they had to maintain the convoy moving. Now, as somebody that actually used to do that, no, you have to maintain the client moving. You have to keep the ambassador's vehicle and, at least 2 security cars moving. They had 3 other vehicles or 4 other vehicles that could have stopped, and none of them did. I mean, it's a disaster. I mean, from every standpoint, that's a disaster. But the good news is that it was in Cameroon, so they've got a real dependent government, so the government's not going to make a stink about it.
And that's it. No harm, no foul. Life goes on.
Except for the kid. Yeah.
Well, and the family, the mother,
yeah,
and sisters or whatever other family was there. That's disgusting. Like, really, think about like if that would have happened in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
A little blonde white girl in Oklahoma City just pile drive right through her.
It doesn't even stop.
Like, that's sick. That's sick. That's the level of power trip these people are on. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Oklahoma City is one to me that I feel more is U.S. I've seen more evidence to suggest that U.S. government's involved in that than I ever have 9/11. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, what I normally see when I look at it is I see the government making moves that made them look like they were involved, but it was more so, if you look at it from another angle, it was more so them closing down the case.
Yeah, it almost seemed that way.
So that's almost, if I had to go run on a theory, that's what it was.
It almost seems too, and if you look at the right perspective, that it was a mission gone wrong. Like something went sour. Like those people weren't supposed to die. And maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do. Like I think from what I've seen and the tactic that was used and all of that, it fits. The anniversary, terrorist attacks tend to happen on anniversaries of events. The target was a soft target that was comparable to Waco. It had a bunch of kids, and it had the bad guys, from their perspective. So, I mean, the target, the tactic, all of that makes sense. Mm-hmm. What doesn't make sense is the investigation that followed it. Now, it could be something where they had an undercover agent involved who screwed up or was, as more often the case with the FBI, was drunk or, whatever, just wasn't paying attention. And they wanted to protect themselves from that. I mean, there are a lot of non-massive conspiracy theories, but little conspiracy theories that can explain it. And then there is the idea that they were worried about the growth of the militia movement, which was a craze at the time, and they wanted a way to shut it down. Blowing a bunch of kids in half is a way to do that.
Yeah. What is your explanation of the Terrence Yakey, Officer Terrence Yakey story?
The Terrence Yakey story.
If you don't know about him, I highly suggest you go look up who is Terrence Yakey.
Don't feel bad, Justin. He does this to me all the time.
Yeah, I'm the only person. Like, I'm the one person that knows this story.
Let me get your opinion on this thing you've never heard of before.
No, I know.
That's you.
I'm bad at
there.
that.
Yeah,
I'm bad at that.
Give me cliff notes here.
Okay, Terrence.
Is this the cop that pulled him over?
This was the cop that saved the 8 people and ended up killing himself by torturing himself to death.
And shooting himself in the
shot himself in the back of the head, but luckily somehow he made the weapon disappear. He had handcuff prints on his arms, but the handcuffs were gone. Again, this is suicide. And he had saved 8 people from the morning of the Oklahoma City bombing, whenever he knew there was bombs in it. He saw the bombs. He was collecting a bunch of evidence of what really happened. And they kept telling him, you don't need to do this, you don't need to do this. He kept getting threatened. And he was going out one night to his friend, get dinner. Or he was going to put some stuff in the storage unit for his case or whatever. And before he leaves, he's like, okay, I'm going to shake these feds, follow me, kind of joking, and so then we'll go meet for dinner after I drop the stuff off. And that's it. Last anybody heard from him. So, found the field the next day, killed himself, said he was high, and he said he was drunk, high, and all that business. And, of course, there was no alcohol, no drugs in the system.
I think it's very important to notice, to note how much of a hero cop he was, because even in that last moment when he committed suicide, he still thought to throw the gun away so a child wouldn't come along and play with it.
I know. And then he locked the
true hero to the end.
Hey, he locked the knife that he used to slit his wrist in the glove box in his car.
Wow. So, I mean, that's a hero.
That's keeping people safe.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course that's one of the most violent suicides I can possibly
that'd be a rough one.
Of, yeah.
They said it would be physically impossible, so this guy was like super tough.
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to take a look at it. Have you, just by any chance, there's a movie called Arlington Road. Have you ever seen it?
What's it called now?
I saw
Arlington Road.
I loved that movie. I totally forgot about it until you said that.
Yeah, go for it, Claire. When it comes to movies, I'm usually...
I can't even remember anymore, but I've seen it a bunch of times.
Arlington Road. I've never... Can you Netflix this one?
I don't know. I don't know. I bought it on DVD like years ago. Storyline is basically there was a Ruby Ridge type scenario. There's a college professor. He, investigates it. He realizes something was wrong. New guy moves into the neighborhood, becomes friends with him. The new guy is actually running or may or may not be running a cell, a militia cell. And the movie goes on. I don't want to ruin it for you, but it's definitely something I suggest you watch. And as far as Oklahoma City, that is the storyline of that movie is much more likely than the story we were given.
You're so right, too. I forgot about that. That's exactly the association I made when I watched that movie so many times. That's why I liked that so much. I'd forgotten about that. Thank you for the reminder.
All right, I'm gonna check that one out. When did it come out?
It's 1999.
Okay, yeah. Kevin's on.
Johnny Google over here.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, baby.
Hey, actually, while I was kind of looking into that too, I crossed another article from Mother Jones of all people. All the way back in 2007, they actually were reporting a story on the John Doe number 2. One of the other people that were.
Was it Ken Trentadue's story?
I didn't get into the story too far yet, but thought it was interesting. Mother Jones covered it all the way back in 2007. So it's been quite a few years ago. It'd be maybe a good, interesting reading for later.
Yeah. Do you know about the Ken Trinity stuff, Justin?
You're going to have to give me more incidents and not names. It's been a long time since I looked into this.
Yeah, we are talking about an event that took place 23 years ago.
Yeah, I live in my own world when it comes to this stuff. But he was in prison, and he suicided himself. And this one was like he was forcing Coca-Cola down himself as he beat the soles of his feet, like tortured himself to death, kind of a thing, like horrible. And they tried to do away with the body. Anyways, the guy's brother fights to get the body. They say it was suicide. He said his body obviously wasn't. His brother gets a phone call from Timothy McVeigh. And Kevin, you know the...
I don't. I just know that is the story, but this is apparently one of the story. Mother Jones actually ran a few different stories.
Is that what the story's saying?
Yeah, this particular one.
Yeah,
is.
and so anyways, and McVeigh told him they thought that was who... that he had a similar tattoo, I think.
The guy that's in the not in the military.
The guy they killed that guy thinking it was somebody involved, and he had nothing to do with it. It was just a similar description. And the brother figured it all out.
I do recall.
And McVeigh called the brother, and he's like, they killed your brother, but they didn't know who he was. They thought they had somebody else. I know who they thought he had, but yeah.
And here we are 23 years later. I mean, first off, do you think we'll ever know the absolute full truth about what happened there?
I do not.
Ever.
No. Nobody's going to care.
I think we might. I think if my operating theory is correct, eventually the guys that did it, and we're probably not too far away from it, are gonna come forward.
What about Kennedy? Nobody ever has that.
Well, that's one of those things. I mean, when it comes to
even King, and I mean, King around Birmingham, especially because all the, you hear all the stories about that.
Well, you probably know that.
I don't think there's a person in the city of Birmingham that believes any of that nonsense they'd say with James Earl Ray.
His family took that to civil court in the U.S.
Oh, I know.
You saw the ruling, but the U.S. government...
he bought that gun right down there on the Port Madrid Boulevard.
Right here close by us.
Yeah, with less than a mile from here. And dropped it off in Memphis in his brand new car, which he had no money, and drove it up to Canada and went to England, which he, again, had no money.
No money.
And then they pinned it on him. Anyway, I
gas
digress.
prices were a lot cheaper then, though.
Yeah, I digress. But anyways, got just a couple of minutes here. I'm going to go ahead and any last words for us, Justin?
We have a new app called Bridge Agent, and it features anti-media stuff too. It's available on Droid. It's called Bridge Agent by TFC. Download it, use it, because Facebook's content collapse is going to start limiting everybody's pages.
Awesome. Claire, any last words?
Vote harder. I'm sure things will change.
That's it. Kevin?
In the Fed, baby. No, that's it.
Sound director, Mr. Genius himself.
Supreme 16. Fear the boot, y'all. If you're going to waste a vote, do it for somebody that's going to give you a pony. But you broke ass.
Hi. Good idea.
Be forced.
Pony-based economy.
For Anti-Media Radio, I am SM Gibson. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back on Thursday, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific. For Anti-Media Radio, out.
Good evening.
I'ma let 'em know, no, through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo.